So we're here at the Adaptation Fund's Innovation Days. This is session number 2 of 5 sessions running across 3 days. We have with us our community within the room who are here at Adaptation Futures in Montreal. We also have with us our online community who are joining us globally on our Zoom webinar. Welcome everybody who is online and joining us. Now we have a very special session for you in which we're going to start to look at innovation and what is it? What is it on the ground? What are people doing? What is happening in terms of innovation? You'll see here on the screen that I've invited people to take a seat with an innovator. Now, if you are in the room, that instruction is for you. So we have some innovators around the room. Please, could you stand up? Just so we know where you are. Just stand up for us. Fantastic. Thank you. No, you are an innovator. Now, if you are an audience member, you may also be an innovator. Of course, I don't want to separate us out. Many of our audience members are innovators. But if you are in our audience members, please make sure you're sitting near one of these standing people. They are going to tell you their wonderful stories. So if you are not sat near a standing person, I see we have a little extra need over here for some more audience and coming towards the front as well. Please move yourselves around and make sure you're near one of our storytellers, one of our innovators. Now, if you are online, you're not going to be listening to these innovators within the room. And I'm very sorry about that, but we will be bringing you snippets from what they're talking about later in the session. However, if you're online, you're going to be joining our online speakers talking about innovation and adaptation and what does it look like. So here in the room with us, we have our wide panel. And online, we're going to have Rafael Moser and El Fahir El Tahir. They're coming to us from Local and from MIT. And they are going to be taking our online audience through their stories from their organizations. So at this point in time, I'm going to split us from online to in-room. In-room, we're going to have our story sessions, and online, Rafael is going to start. Can we hear from Rafael? Could we have him up on screen just for one moment to say hello to everyone? Hello, Rafael, how are you?
I'm good. You?
Fantastic.
Thanks for inviting us.
You are very welcome. It's wonderful to see you. And El Faith, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here. And again, also thank you for inviting me.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So you are going to look after our online community. So back over to Rafael for that. And Rafael, you are going to take the stage for our online. So please, you are welcome to share your slides. And here in the room, you're going to enjoy your conversations. So look away from the screens, look to the people next to you, and hear their wonderful stories. I'm going to be quiet for the next 15 minutes, and the rest of you are going to be taken on a wonderful journey. Enjoy. Oh, thank you so much to El Faith and to Rafael. It has been an absolute pleasure to hear from you. Now, in the room, we still have some discussions going on, but we're about to pull those together and to reunite those of you who are online and those of you who are in the room. So, as I pick my way through. So welcome back, everyone in the room. It is time for you to wrap up those conversations and to bring yourselves a little bit more towards the front again. I'm going to ask my wonderful colleagues, Saliha Dobatstik and Marcus Johannesson, to come up and join me on the stage, please. Thank you so much. So while we enjoyed our online speakers for our online community, who we will be coming back to in a few moments to hear some more from, we're going to unite you back and let you know a little bit about what happened in the room. So, apologies, I just have to jump through a couple of slides. Here we go. So in the room, we've had Saliha Dobatstik and Marcus Johannesson from the Adaptation Fund moving around our different groups and listening into what's been going on. So for those of you online and for those of you in the room who weren't able to hear the other conversations, Saliha, I'm going to turn to you first. What have you been hearing in the room? What have our innovators been talking about?
Well, thank you so much. It has been fascinating. I wish I could have been with all the groups all at once. I only got snippets that were very promising, and I guess we will hear from some of them directly. So, without stealing anyone's thunder, I would say that there were some very intriguing discussions about, not so surprisingly perhaps, but I would say one common thread has been the role of nature and nature-based solutions in building resilience, or the role of the effect of the degradation of nature on resilience. What have you heard, Marcus?
Thank you, Sally. And I was in a group where we ended up challenging the concept of innovation, perhaps. And we were talking a lot about the processes needed in Maori tribes to co-create in between themselves, and how to connect the indigenous knowledge with the climate science, and finding a way of documenting this for the future, and also sharing with the sub-tribes, and also connect to the central local government, how to become more devolving the decision making down to the tribes. And also, I think the innovation here was more about creating the awareness and a common ground, and I guess open up communication channels and processes never before visited in this kind of way. So yeah, this was an innovative way, I think, and necessary.
Yeah, and I heard something also related to that, which gave me a little bit of hope. I don't want to give it away, but we may hear a little bit more about that. But adaptation, we consider it as a challenge. It's a way to solve a really serious problem. But apparently there are opportunities that this challenge is opening up. Yes, there is this unambiguous imperative to do things differently, and then the opportunities for doing things maybe even in a better way than they have been done before becomes available. And I thought that was really interesting. I've also heard a bit about different instruments that are not perhaps innovative per se, but they're they're innovative in the context of adaptation. And perhaps innovative in the geography they're being applied. So I think it's the Adaptation Fund thinks of innovation in that way as well. It doesn't have to be some fancy technological new invention or something like that. It can really be something that has been successful somewhere else, but is new to this environment where a particular challenge is being addressed.
Yeah, thank you, Sally. And I also think in our discussion we had here in that side of the room, it really connected to the opening session, also connecting to how the indigenous tribes are really connecting to the weather and the indicators in the sky, and also in weather events. And it seems like, even though this is, of course, the knowledge is kind of forgotten, but to revisit that seems to be, a way of trying to change the narrative, and should be considered innovative, but becoming more and more important to make real adaptation social innovation. And not only technological, but so the basic understanding in between groups that need to collaborate should, of course, be founded before moving into more advanced, should we call it that? Maybe not, innovations.
Yeah, and the question that I have is, so what kind of enabling environment is needed to support innovation, and how can we build better innovation ecosystems. So maybe.
It's a wonderful question. Yes, thank you. Thank you for this sum up of the things that you've been hearing within the room. So let's hear a few more voices on that, and also for those of you in the room to hear some of our online voices, and for those of you online to hear from those in the room. So in order to enable that, can I please also call up to the stage Sean Agavi, Marco Ibarra, and Catherine Bocanegra. Please come and join us. We could applaud them while they walk up. I think that would make them feel extra welcome as they come onto stage. It's no easy thing to come up in front of the audience. Now, thank you so much. But first of all, I'm going to give the voice to our online. So, Raphael, can you tell us, for those of us in the room, as well as those who you've been speaking to online, in 2 minutes, can you sum up for us what does innovation mean for you in your local context?
Thank you so much. Yeah, for me, I mean, climate change adaptation is about, local level. I mean, this has been, hugely highlighted now in the global stocktake in the synthesis report. So for me, adaptation is local. At the same time, when we look at it from a financial perspective, funding is not reaching the local level. I mean, communities are there and they're not receiving, not benefiting from those financial instruments. And then in this arena, I mean, at the local level, I believe in, from our experience, work with local governments in the countries which are the most vulnerable to climate change. I'm talking about the least developed countries, the seeds, in Africa and African nations. There is a huge role to be played by local governments, but they need to be empowered. And to do that, and they can really become, if empowered and well equipped, they can really become agents of change in terms of promoting locally led adaptation. But to do that, and from our experience, that means implementing, testing, and trying, and scaling up innovative mechanisms that not only work through a systems approach, because we see a lot of projects here and there, but in order for us to achieve scalability that is needed for adaptation at this level, at the local level, we need really to work through existing systems, so no parallel approaches, use a mainstreaming approach to ensure this long-term sustainability of the activities. At the same time, and this is a methodology that we use under the local facility with this performance-based climate resilience grants. I mean, we use a mechanism which is based on performance, which encourages local governments to become increasingly more empowered and equipped to advance adaptation where action is really needed at the local level. So for me, innovation is somehow, and maybe what Salih also said, we don't need very high-tech technologies, but somehow methodology that somehow help local governments to really become key actors in terms of advancing climate change at the local level. Thank you.
Now we hand across to El Fatih. Can you tell us, what is innovation for you? You're on mute for us.
Thank you very much. In the context of our program, innovation is really integration across different spheres. So you could think of adaptation approaches that are scientifically rigorous, or you could think of others that are integrated in their approach, others that are community-based and locally scale emphasized, others that emphasize effectiveness and evidence-based approaches. We achieve innovation by combining all these and demonstrating our approach before we advance it for large-scale implementation projects to be financed by funding agencies. So the innovative aspect of our program is to demonstrate an scientifically rigorous, integrated, community-led, evidence-based approach that empowers local communities to adapt optimally and proactively to climate change. We do not seek to adapt to the climate change that's already happened, but to project into the future and define the condition that would exist in the next 30 years so that large-scale adaptation projects could be planned and executed to prepare local communities, mostly in vulnerable frontline communities. Our focus in Bangladesh and East Africa. And we hope to demonstrate for those communities a new innovative approach that integrates all these dimensions. Thank you.
Thank you to both our online speakers for those words. And now we move across to those at our table. So we start, just move us across. We start with Sean. I know you have some slides for us, so nod to me as you want me to go through them.
Sure.
And of course, Sean is representing the wider group.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I don't have some slides for you, Sean. My sincere apologies.
No. Well, tēnā koutou katoa, he mihi mahana ki a koutou ai te wā nei, so greetings from New Zealand. Without slides, I'll do my best to walk through. The first thing I was going to mention was just the context from a Māori perspective, so New Zealand Indigenous people's perspective. Essentially, humanity's kind of lost its way largely because of a disconnect with nature. And for us in New Zealand, that disconnect has been, and I'm sure it's the same in a lot of other countries, that disconnect has been privileged by the dominant culture. And so for us as Māori, there's really a need to come up with ways for reconnecting with nature. So that disconnect is really at the core of why we've got these existential threats happening to humanity. And so I wanted to introduce the idea of kaitiaki. So kaitiaki are people that are intergenerational stewards of the natural world for us as Māori. So kaitiaki, and I've worked with lots of them over the years, and we've got some here. And you've been able to talk to some of them in the time before now. Kaitiaki they all have the same thing in common. They have an intergenerational responsibility to look after nature, and what comes with that responsibility is the need to make sure that the natural world is looked after. And so the next concept I wanted to introduce was the concept called mahinga kai, which is about local foods, the places those foods are gathered, and the knowledge that goes with those processes. And so kaitiaki have a central responsibility to ensure that mahinga kai is handed on to the next generations. And so for us, in terms of answering the question of this session, answering the question, what does innovation look like for us as Māori? That for us, it's when mentorship can be taken from those people that have that intergenerational responsibility. There's a saying that I've seen in the literature, old ways for new days, that I think it was Melissa Nussey Bray who came up with that saying. And to me, that sums it all up. It's about having the courage and the imagination to really look backwards and look at the skills that have come from indigeneity and being able to move forwards. And for us, that local place, the food gathering sources, the people that have that knowledge, that gives that connection to place. That's a method to reconnect humanity with nature, with the world around us, and move us away from those existential threats and problems that we all are suffering from. So kia ora koutou katoa. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And next we move to Marco, and Marco also representing a wider community within the room. Marco, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I guess it's a very hard task to represent over 30 plus national implementing entities before the Adaptation Fund, and also speak about innovation in only 2 minutes. So I guess I'm going to make my best effort. When Eleanor asked me to speak about innovation, I struggle a lot trying to identify the best way to speak about this. But I guess I narrow it down to the question, what is it important to speak about innovation? And I guess when we have over 32 NIEs accredited before the Adaptation Fund, we have to throw some numbers at the table. These 32 countries have over 3.2 billion people, which has over 41% of the worldwide population, according to the 2021 UN statistics, which is a very important number. And the support that we receive from the Adaptation Fund is a key element for the efforts that we do locally based on the needs that we receive from our communities, our government, and the different institutions that come to us with the challenges that they have identified through the young leaders, the communities, the indigenous communities, and the women who are struggling with the changes that have been affecting them through the climate change. But in the case of Chile, when they come up to us with their project proposals, their concept note to be presented before the fund, we always request them the answer to the question, how would you scale up the project proposal that you will be presenting to the Adaptation Fund? If they cannot respond that question, we request them to go back to their office, think about it, and get back to us, because it's very important to think about how to scale this up, because the climate change and all the situations that we are facing every day, it's no longer around the corner, it's behind us. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And last but very much not least, Catherine from Producers Direct. What does innovation look like to you?
Thank you, Eleanor. Well, I came from this previous climate change consultant. The name is Libélula, and we were involved in this research about how mobilize financial in terms of adaptation. And we were talking about one experience about Merece, that it was a water fount place in Piura, that is a region in Peru. And we were talking about this innovative instrument, but it's in terms of adaptation. It's not like innovative in terms of how you can create a water fund, but it was because it found about adaptation activities. But in my group, we were talking about this key actor that is related with the innovation, but is really important in all the instruments that we implement. That is the key factor of trust relationship, and in building this relationship with communities when you implement these innovative instruments. So between groups and stakeholders to implement these innovative financial instruments, someone in the group shared one experience in Brazil that it was really innovative, and it is like everyone was really interested about this experience. That is, in our organic farmers, they have a particular certification that makes all the stakeholders that are implied in this group, each other, they need to certify to give a sense of transparency. And we conclude our conversation with this question, that how we can implement this relationship of trust through this certification in other contexts like payment for ecosystem services.
Thank you. So as we come towards the end of session 2 of our Innovation Days, I just bring for one moment back to my colleagues Saliha and Marcus. What stands out for you? We've now been through about 2 hours looking at what innovation is from many different contexts, different voices and different organizations, and hearing a little bit about what is happening on the ground at the moment, what these different innovators are actually doing. So what has resonated with you? What are you sitting with at this point in time?
Thank you, Eleanor, and thank you to the participants. What strikes me here is that the collaboration in between sectors, but also to actually base trust and the foundation for understanding is key. Because how could you otherwise, develop the desire to change together if you don't understand each other? And it seems to be something that ties into how we, before we enter into projects and throughout projects, the key of social dialogue and how to really let that phase of the program take the time it needs, and also that it takes, I guess, if it should be evolving in a maturing enough to be able to have a good foundation, it needs to take time. And I think we hear that also in our projects, that it's a key, but it's also a challenge. So that's what stands out for me. Saliha, do you want to add something?
Yeah. In addition to that, what struck me is what has left an impression on me from hearing everyone around and in the groups is probably can be applied to this Innovation Days as a whole, or even the conference as a whole. So some of the themes basically, well, let me just quote, perhaps, starting with Professor Al-Fateh. Scientifically based, what we need is scientifically based, evidence-based, community-centered interventions and innovations with respect for indigenous knowledge and values, old ways for new ways. Is that what you said, Sean? Yeah, new days. Old ways for new days, for climate justice. And I think that kind of encapsulates the discussions that I've heard today, which were very interesting. And I'm really grateful for this wonderful turnout, the fabulous panel here and online, and all the participants that were hopefully able to join, as well as to you, Eleanor. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. So we restart tomorrow. We will reconvene again at 1:30 in Montreal and online to take the next step of Innovation Days, to think about what is innovation as a process. And it's something that we've heard a little bit about today, that innovation is not just one thing, it's not just one point in time, but that there is a process that sits around it. So that's where we'll start again tomorrow. So a huge thank you to everyone who's been here in the audience, both virtually, online, and here in the room. And a huge thank you to everyone who's spoken in this session and our first session. I look forward to seeing you all again tomorrow, and there's nothing left to do except give a great round of applause for everything that we've been listening to. Thank you.